I'm Samantha Mabe, website designer and founder of Lemon and the Sea, and this is Elevate Your Practice. If you're a holistic health practitioner ready to grow your practice without wasting time on things that don't work, you're in the right place. Each week, I share website, SEO, and marketing advice along with guest experts so you can bring in the right clients and feel confident about how you are showing up and serving the people that you help. Let's get started. Today, I'm talking with Deanna Martin about outsourcing your marketing for your health practice. And I'm so excited about this conversation. Deanna and I have known each other on Instagram for quite a while. And so we got to connect and talk through strategies and tips that will help you to prepare to outsource your marketing, whether you're planning on doing that in the beginning of 2026 or further down the road. Deanna is a marketing strategist and the founder of Patrona Virtual Solutions, where she helps health and wellness providers finally stop spinning their wheels and start showing up with strategy. After 14 years as a biology and anatomy teacher, she traded her lesson plans for marketing plans, and now she helps practitioners get organized, clarify their audience, and set their business up for outsourcing success. Whether it's social media, email marketing, or podcast pitching, Deanna is all about turning Post-it note ideas into streamlined strategies that actually get implemented. She's also a busy mom of 3, so she knows how to juggle all the things without burning out, and she brings that same energy to helping her clients grow in a sustainable way. Hi, Deanna. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited.
I shared your official bio, but can you tell us a little bit more about what you do and how you got to that point?
Yeah, so I am a health and wellness marketing strategist. Long story is that I intended on being a pediatric physical therapist. I poured years into volunteering and, of course, school and internships and all the things. And I didn't get in. I didn't know what to do. My mother-in-law was a principal, and she said, "Why don't you go into special education, do teaching? They're still kids. They still need support." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, teaching in high school? No way." You know what? I'm just gonna do it 1 year, get some money and reapply. And I stayed there for 14 years. I actually love teaching. And so I went from special education into biology, human anatomy, AP biology. I really love doing that. I left teaching after 14 years, and I really missed the science and education part of it. So I started doing some research of what I could do. I found the world of virtual assisting. So I started doing that and supporting online business owners. Again, I still missed the health wellness aspect of it. So I started reaching out to providers that I knew had an online presence, and I started working with them and found that they needed a ton of help in marketing. And when I took a step back and I realized, okay, how can I take teaching and use that in marketing? Basically, that's what teaching. I have to find a way to take mitochondria and make it super exciting for high school students and keep their attention and make it interesting. So I was essentially marketing to my students all the time. Once I realized I had a bit of that background, it was really easy for me to merge that into what I do now. I started doing a lot of general VA work with providers. Of course, that merged into social media management. And now I still do social media, but I do a lot of strategy support with them too.
My husband is a teacher. He teaches AP math, and teachers are very skilled people. I tried substituting for a few days and it was like, this is not for me. But there are so many skills that you have that then you can bring. And I love that you incorporated all of the pieces of like, I'm going to help people and I know all of this health and wellness stuff, which is always really valuable when you are working in that field.
Exactly. It's not just, can I put a couple of facts and make a cute little Canva graphic? It's really getting into what is the provider's ideal client or patients? What are they thinking? What are they feeling? And so I really try to connect and work with providers where it's something that I feel like, okay, this is a service that I could see myself using or that I would look into for my kids or my mom, because then it makes that whole piece so much easier. But you're right. It's not just a cute little carousel and a cute little reel together. There really is strategy and understanding what is it that people are trying to connect with. And on top of that, the whole education piece and research, and there's a lot that goes into it.
So what made you realize there was such a need for marketing specific support in these health and wellness spaces?
I had providers who were telling me that they were doing great as far as getting referrals, the word of mouth. And of course, we know that social media is a huge place where people can start to market. And it's amazing because Instagram is free. Why wouldn't you put time into that? And I feel like just the way marketing is moving, there has to be a presence. That's just how it is. Even for myself, when I'm looking for a new restaurant, I go into Instagram and I look up Scottsdale restaurants or Gilbert restaurants. That's just the way that people are searching for things now. Yes, of course, they use Google, but a lot are using Instagram. For the providers that I was working with, they were getting decent traction from the word of mouth or from Google, but they also saw that their competitors were using Instagram. So they wanted to start using that. And when I would peek into it, it was a lot of happy Thanksgiving, happy whatever, but it really wasn't showing why are people wanting to come to you? Why should they come to you? Because even for me, especially when I'm looking for a provider for my kids, I do want to see the providers. I want to hear their voice. I want to see what the office looks like. And having an Instagram account is so valuable to be able to show people right away what that looks like. I saw the intention of how they were using Instagram, but the action and the strategy is what was missing and what I was able to fill that gap with.
I love that. I think websites, which is what I do, we can show some personality, but
Mhm.
they're static and they're more professional. On Instagram, especially now, you have the ability to really showcase the people that are working there and what it's like to come there. Like you said, as a mom, you want to know that the space is kid friendly and these people know what
Yeah.
they're doing. I think that social media specifically is a really great place to differentiate yourself from other people that they may have found through referrals or through Google, and that's your more casual behind the scenes place to hang out.
Yeah, definitely. And then even for a lot of the providers, when I started working with them, I would, of course, join their email list. And then I would see that maybe I would get an initial email. And then months later, if I was working with someone even a year and a half in, I would do a little bit of research like, oh, you send one every maybe 4 months. So even that too, I mean, that there are a lot of pieces that go into it. It's not just making the post. It's not just, okay, I have my website, clients, patients can start coming to me. There are a lot of moving pieces that go into that. So all of those things I was looking at. I was looking at the email marketing. Was that being used? It is important to make sure that we're reaching people on all these different platforms because not everyone's on Instagram, not everyone's on Facebook, not everyone's on TikTok. What's going to make it even more likely that you're going to grow, you're going to get more patients, more clients, and people will see the information that you're trying to share with them.
Today, we're specifically talking about outsourcing. So I'd love to know some of the mistakes you see people make before they start outsourcing and what you're seeing people do that you or somebody else would be able to help them with.
Yes. So I love talking about this because, especially for myself, going from virtual assisting to social media management to now more strategy, I have been through the whole realm of what is it that online business owners, providers will hire. And the biggest mistake that I see is that there's not enough preparation on the provider's end to set up your team for success. I have worked with providers where they tell me, oh, I've been through, I can't even tell you how many virtual assistants, or I've worked with a ton of social media managers. And I know for some, they're like, red flag. And for me, it's not so much a red flag. To me, that's a red flag that no one really explained then what the expectation is. No one really came to you and said, here's what I'm coming to you with, but here's what I need you to come to me with. So the biggest thing is making sure that you have even a simple Google Doc with just basic SOPs. Doesn't have to be fancy. Don't get crazy with it. Just basic, what's your flow when you do like to send emails? Do you have a bank of keywords where you're like, I never use this word, or this is my email signed off. So that way, when you do write my emails, this is typically what my voice is. The biggest thing that I see is that providers aren't setting something up. So that way, when they do want to hand these things off, because I get it, you want to hand it off, you don't want to do it, you don't want to learn one more thing. You don't care about automations or workflows or whatever, but you also have to prepare them so that they can reflect you. Because then what ends up happening? Now you're sitting there upset, editing everything, giving all this feedback, but whoever you hire, they don't know what they don't know. So making sure that you're setting them up for that.
I think it's important to remember that a VA is not somebody who's going to come in and be like, okay, I'm going to figure out the voice of your practice. They're not building all the foundational stuff.
Mm.
You are handing them what they need, and they are just executing tasks.
Yes.
I did this recently. I hired somebody to help me with stuff, and I did not write my SOPs down ahead of time. We had a call, and she was like, "Okay, you're gonna have to write all this down." And I went through, and I was like, "Oh, wow. I have all this information. I just need to put it in one
Yeah.
place." And then it was so helpful for her, but it's also helpful for me to go back and look at it. You do have to be prepared before you bring someone on.
Yeah, and then you know what? Even if you don't know how yet, I've gotten on a few discovery calls where someone says, "I know I need your service. Can we talk about what can I do to prepare so that way down the road I am ready for you?" There's nothing wrong with that. So don't feel like, "Okay, I'm going to try to put something together. I don't know if this is right." Maybe talk to someone else in your space who has hired someone and ask them how did they set up their systems? What did they do to prepare for VA, social media manager, strategist? Or get on a call if there is someone where you're like, "I really would like to work with this person." Get on a call with them and see what it is that they say. That's going to help both of you in the long run. And then knowing, I love what you said, that a VA is not a strategist. A social media manager is not a strategist. Those things can have a little bit of intertwining, but they're very different roles. So also understanding what do you need and who do you actually need to hire? Don't just hire the VA because they're $10 an hour, but you also want them to do all this setup and tech. It's not gonna happen.
Yeah, can you break down what people should expect those different titles to do and how they would know who they might need to hire?
Yeah, definitely. So a virtual assistant is going to be someone where you have these repetitive tasks, maybe weekly, maybe they're monthly, and everything is essentially done. Let's say that you want them to take over your email marketing in the sense of I have all my emails, I know what I'm going to write each month. It's in a Google Doc, but I need someone to put it into Flowdesk or put it into whatever platform you're using. You should also have a template of what your email looks like when it's done, all pretty and branded and everything like that. So they'll take that content. If you want to put notes in there for them, add this link, you provide the link for them. They are just doing the basic, here you go. I'm giving you step by step essentially what to do. If you want to tie it into social media, maybe you're making posts, maybe you bought these templates, but they're not on my branding colors. Here's my branding colors. Don't change any of the words. Just make it look like my practice, my business. They could schedule it for you if you already have the platform and you know when things want to be scheduled. So they're just taking those basic tasks and still freeing up a ton of time for you. But just very basic, this is exactly what you have to do. A social media manager is going to come in, and it depends. They can come in and say, okay, I will create a strategy for you. Or a lot of times they'll say, what is the strategy you're using now? I will take it. I'll optimize it, really make sure that it reflects what you're doing, what you're offering, and they will create the content for you. But something that I've taught a lot of my clients is that this is also very much a team effort. It can't be, I hired someone, you wash your hands. They still need talking head reels. So they're going to give you topics, but you still have to make sure you're engaging with them on that. They're going to need photos. They're going to need case studies. I do that with my clients all the time. So every month we have a strategy call and we sit down for an hour and I'm like, all right, give me 3 clients that you worked with, 3 patients you worked with. Let's talk about their story. Let's break this down, make content into that. They'll provide the content calendar for you. They'll send it to you to approve, and then they'll go ahead and post it for you. They'll probably do some engagement if you ask them to. I do engagement for mine. Maybe they'll pop in a story. A strategist is not going to do the actual Canva graphics. They're not going to do the actual editing of the reels or the posting. They're the person where essentially you no longer want to be in the middle of having to explain everything to your virtual assistant, to your social media manager. A strategist is going to know what the strategy is and making sure that everything is flowing in that strategy. They're almost like a marketing manager. So having that position is keeping you out of the middle and they will come to you. Your strategist will come to you and say, okay, this is how things are looking. Social media is doing this, VA is doing this. It's having a good partnership with a strategist who knows your voice, who knows your goals, and is making sure that your team is working well and that everything is being done on the back end for that.
It's really helpful to break down and know. what do you need to hire? I think
Yes.
people make the mistake of thinking, I'm going to hire a VA and they're going to write my social media content and they're going to make the graphics and they're going to schedule it and they're going to engage. That's not what their job is. When you want somebody to do that, you're going to be paying more money because they're not just executing tasks.
Absolutely. And if there's something that they do offer, then also just being respectful and saying, okay, if they do offer email marketing, you're not going to get that at the VA price. That's a different service that they're offering for that. Or maybe it's a one off. It's no different than if a patient comes to you for maybe just a wellness check. But now, if you want a private one on one consultation for something that they've been struggling with for months, that's gonna cost a little bit different. Yes, they're still seeing you. This is still your role, you're still their provider, but they're coming to you for a different service. So it's no different than a VA, social media manager, or a strategist.
Once they decide, I need to outsource some of this, maybe they have an idea of which role they need to hire for. How can they set some realistic expectations as far as finding the right person, the timeline for how long it's going to take? What does that process look like and what should we expect?
For that, whether it's a virtual assistant, social media manager, or strategist, they should tell you that on the call, whether it's during the discovery or with onboarding, should also be in the contract too. There is a timeline, and I always let my providers know that first month is going to be onboarding. It takes a lot of time to make sure that we have everything synced. I know your voice. You're comfortable with my systems. I'm comfortable with your systems. And it's not a waste. You need that setup. That's so valuable. So the first month, about 4 weeks, is just going to be a lot of onboarding. It could be a lot of, especially if it's a social media manager, setting up some templates just to say, okay, do the style. And then in month 2 is really when things start to flow. It can depend. For a virtual assistant, there should be a training session. We're like, okay, I know that I'm taking on XYZ. Let's spend an hour and go through your SOPs. Do that with me. If you don't have time for that, I love when mine send me looms, or I also send looms for them too. I did have a client where she wasn't able to do her onboarding. So I did the whole onboarding process. It was like an hour and a half. I sent her the loom. She watched it whenever she was able to. Each role should be giving you an idea of what the time frame is. And of course, it's going to be different for each one. But you should also ask too. Let them know this is what I'm expecting. Is this even realistic? One of my clients, she's a lifestyle physician and she has 0 experience in Instagram social media. We've been working together. She's doing great so far. But 2 weeks in to posting on Instagram, I haven't gotten any patients yet. And I didn't take any offense to it. I just told her, oh, totally get it. Let me go ahead and explain. It's going to take maybe about 3 months to start getting traction because this is essentially a stagnant account that she's starting. It hasn't been touched in almost a year and a half. I'm like, so now we need to focus on growth. People need to know your face. They need to know your practice. And when I told her that, she's like, all right, now I know. I had no clue. And I told her, I'm so glad you told me that because I don't know what you don't know. Having communication with whoever your team member is massively helpful, right? They can't answer your questions if you're not asking the questions. So letting them know if you do have questions, if you're assuming, okay, I hired the social media manager, how come they're not posting? It's been 2 weeks. Ask them right off the bat. But yeah, just having clarity, having open communications, let them know what you expect, but they should also be giving you an idea of that too.
That's really helpful. And it's a good reminder that none of this is going to be immediate. There is always going to be an onboarding process, no matter what kind of project you're starting. And then none of the results you're going to see are immediate either. They take time to build. I think it's important for people to build that into their plan. So if they're like, okay, I really need to push for this specific thing, you have to work backwards and figure out then when do I need to start in order to find somebody to help me with that.
A social media manager can help you with that. Maybe a virtual assistant if they've had experience in launches, but a strategist is exactly what we do. I have a ginormous whiteboard. You can't see it right now, but it has ginormous plans of when is this launch. So there's something that a client of mine, we're launching in January, and we started doing pre-launch a couple of weeks ago. So you really have to think about that. And if you don't know, that's exactly what a strategist does. Or pick the brain of your social media manager and ask them, have you worked in something like this? You shouldn't expect them to do that because that's not their role, but ask them just so you get an idea of when those things should start. That's the value of having these different team members. Everyone has their niche, their expertise, and they can help you with those goals.
I want to get into how you have set up boundaries and delegation in your business and what people can learn from that. Because when we are handing stuff off, that can either be, I don't want to let it go, or I don't want to ever think about this again. So, how have you done that in your business and what can people learn from the approach that you've taken?
Yeah, no, I get it. And I tell them all the time, this is your baby. I totally understand. You want some help, but this is also your business. You're proud of it. You want to show up a certain way. I totally respect that. So I always tell my clients the first 2 months, let's just do biweekly check ins. They do want to be involved. But for the ones that don't want to be involved, they also want to make sure that this isn't just going to go to waste, right? They want to know what's happening in the background. So we always do biweekly calls for the first 2 months. And then after that, normally they do feel way more comfortable and we can communicate, whether it's through Slack or through email. They know everything that's happening and nothing's going to be done without them knowing. Making sure that communication is open is going to be the first thing that I do. And that is naturally what sets up boundaries. I also let them know I have 3 kids. Of course, I'm going to pour everything that I can into your business, into my business, into my kids, but there's work time just like for you. You have work time, you have family time, you have personal time. That's going to be the biggest thing for boundaries is first having that communication. For delegation, I'm not going to force anything out of their hands, but I also have to let them know that this is a partnership. Anyone that you hire, you have to make sure that you're working as a team. The effort that you're putting into it is going to come back to you. So if you really don't want to let go of something, then I can't help you with that. That's okay. But I do let them know, okay, if you're holding on to that piece, this is a piece of your strategy that is maybe going to hold up reaching more people or growing your audience or whatever it might be.
I think that's important to know. At first, you are obviously going to have to be a little bit more hands-on and give feedback and then figure out like what do you want to hand off? And I think that goes back to figuring out who you want to hire. What do you want to hand off? Find somebody that's going to take that on. You don't want to hire somebody and then not use them to the fullest extent of their abilities. And then I love what you said about boundaries. I think the biggest one is always communication and time expectations.
Yeah.
When are you going to respond? How fast is this going to happen? And it's helpful for everybody to know what that looks like because we all have lives and we're running businesses and we've got everything else that's going on. If we can just get that laid out and then continually update and communicate if things are shifting and changing. And it is a little bit different if somebody has had someone in office doing some of these things where they can just like pop over and ask them a question and have it done. When you're working with somebody virtually who's running their own business, that is going to be slightly different. They're not available for immediate feedback. They're not your employee that can pick up whatever tasks you hand them when you do. They've got their own schedule and their own process.
Yeah, no, for sure. I use Asana for my project management. So I do the best I can with sending these little reminders out and emails out, but things happen all the time. Just having that flexibility is going to take a lot of the stress out too. You really have to trust your team, trust yourself. And as long as you have a plan in the long run, everything's going to be fine.
So, what is a quick win or something that our listeners can do today or this week to make their marketing feel less chaotic, whether they have somebody to outsource to yet or not?
Okay, so one, I would definitely put together what are the weekly things that I do that I want to get off my hands, and what are the monthly things I do that I want to get off my hands. So if you're looking for a VA, that's what I would do right now. Does not have to be fancy. Literally throw it into Google Doc and just put it all in there. If you're looking for a social media manager, I would make sure that you know your patients, your clients, your target audience very well. Is it my job to do some research? Of course, but I'm going to ask my client, why do people come to you? So making sure that you know why people come to you, why they keep coming to you, why are people referring you? What do you do that is different? Making a Google Doc of that. And that's going to help your social media manager a lot if it's a strategist that you're looking for. Just saying, okay, these are the things that I've tried and just kind of brain dump. What have I struggled with? Have you just struggled with even posting, knowing what to say? Have you struggled with, okay, I sold this service and no one bought? Did you know how? Had you ever done that before? Map out all the problems that you've had And if it's something like consistency, okay, then that gives you an idea that maybe a VA could help you with that, right? They could easily get those emails out for you or something like that. If it's something like I've never even started an email list because I don't know where to start, then email marketer could probably help you with that. Or putting down what are your biggest struggles or what do you want to hand off and really knowing who it is that you want to work with and why they are coming to you. Because anyone that you hire is going to need a piece of that information anyways.
Yeah, I love that advice. I think I've heard that from so many people, especially now as things are changing. You have to know what makes you different, why people should choose you over the practice 3 doors down. That is what's gonna make your marketing successful. That's what's gonna make everything else successful because you are really grounded in that. And a lot of it you get from working with people and figuring out who you like and what they're saying. So I think it's really important for everybody to just take time and figure out what makes me different, what makes me stand out, why should people choose me over somebody else? And then you can communicate that to whoever you're working with and use that in all of the strategy that you're doing because that is what people are looking for now when they make decisions.
Definitely. That's going to be the jumping off point for anything. So even onboarding, it's not going to cut your onboarding from 4 weeks to 1 week, but it's going to cut it if there's less resource that has to be done on that end. I think that would be the biggest piece that's going to be most helpful. Something else that I would probably do is if you don't know what to post, I would say send an email. If you haven't sent an email to your audience yet, even just a quick, hey, been a while. I want to let you know what's been happening. Here are some things that have been happening in the practice, in the business, what's happening at the end of the year. Just send a really genuine recap follow-up email or even go into Instagram stories and just again share. Here's what's been happening. Things have been crazy. I'm still seeing patients, still seeing clients. Just doing something like that. You get in front of people, you did a piece of your marketing, doesn't take a whole ton of brain power strategy to do it. And it's genuine. That's the biggest thing. People don't want to work with a stoic provider, especially depending on the niche that you're in. It could be a really sensitive topic and they want to make sure that they're working with someone that feels comfortable. So send the genuine email. Don't make it fancy schmancy. If you're in Instagram stories, if you're Hot Mess Express, be Hot Mess Express and just check in with them.
Yes, awesome. So, where can people connect with you and learn more about what you do and see all of the good stuff that you have?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram. So it's at Patrona_VS. And my website is Patrona Virtual Solutions. So you can see what I do there. You can see a bit of my work. And if you want to work with me, get on a call and just brainstorm things that you need help with. There's a form on there, or you can send me a DM.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on and walking us through this and helping people plan what their next steps are to outsource their marketing and their business growth.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to Elevate Your Practice. If you enjoyed today's episode, follow the show and leave a review. It helps more practitioners find these tips and start growing their practices with confidence. And don't forget to check out the show notes for links and resources from today's episodes. I'll be back next week with more strategies to help you build a thriving practice.